Jimmy Spoon and the Pony Express by Kristina Gregory, Chapter 24, Buffalo. In the days that followed, the boys rode north along the outskirts of the lush Cache Valley in Utah Territory. Jimmy wanted to avoid the Mormon settlements. He did not want anyone to interrupt his journey with questions or offers of hospitality. When they came to a rise and saw in the distance a shimmery thread of water, Jimmy became excited. It was the Paiupa, the Snake River, where he had first fished and swum with his Indian family. He and Penn had reached the territory that Congress would soon name Idaho. "There's Fort Hall," he said, pointing to the stockades in the grassy bottomland. Shoshone traded here, which meant Jimmy might see old friends. Because the fort was on the Oregon Trail, it would also be bustling with travelers who stopped to rest and repair wagons. But as the boys came closer, they realized there was no smoke rising from the 5 chimneys, and only a tattered rag dangled from the flagpole. The post was abandoned. They rode through the empty yard to a bluff. Looking down, they found a steep trail to the river. While their horses drank, Jimmy and Penn took off their boots and trousers, unbuttoned their shirts, then raced each other in. The cold water felt good. Jimmy rolled onto his back, and as he did, he felt something brush his arm. A large speckled trout quickly twitched away from him, then swam to the middle of the current. This gave Jimmy an idea. "Penn," he said in a quiet voice, "better build us a fire because I intend to catch us some dinner." Jimmy let himself drift out to the deeper water, face down, his legs and arms floating like driftwood. Ever so slowly, he turned his head to the side to take a breath. The water was crystal clear, and he could see the trout's rainbow tail finning back and forth. Before the fish could blink, Jimmy's hand had glided under its belly. His fingers hooked the gills, and in one swift movement he tossed it to the bank. It landed, flopping by Penn's muddy feet. Penn was so startled he dropped his shirt in the sand. "Lordy, Jim, I'm glad as heck you weren't catching us a bear for dinner." For 2 days, the boys continued north along Paiupa, stopping only to water the horses and to let Jimmy rest under a shady tree. Though his wound was healed, he was bothered by headaches. When the river turned east, Jimmy's heart quickened. He had camped here with Washaki. It was from that rock he had launched himself into a beautiful dive because Nahani was watching and Jimmy had wanted to show off. Instead, he had landed such a slap on his belly. Even now he cringed to remember his embarrassment. The Teton Valley spread before them, gray-blue with sage, and in the far distance the snowy western peaks of the Tetons. The beauty filled Jimmy with happiness. How wonderful those days were when he was Dawee, young brother to the chief. The land was still lovely, and it was alive. Sage grouse fluttered among the brush, and a family of pronghorn antelope scattered away from the trail, leaping as they ran. Overhead came the cry of a red-tailed hawk. Wind moved clouds across the sky as if pulling cotton. It stirred the tall grass. Along the river bank walked three big black birds, twice as large as crows. They looked like bullies, hunched over and serious. They searched for seeds and bugs. Jimmy laughed out loud, pointing to them. "You watch, Penn. Soon those ravens will find a dead fish that floats ashore. Indians call them the bird that never goes hungry. They'll eat me and you if we sit still long enough. Come on." They rode to the top of a grassy knoll, then galloped downhill for the fun of it. In the shade of an aspen, they saw a light brown buffalo calf. Its mother was nearby, grazing on wheatgrass. Her coat was dark brown with tufts of shedding fur. "Bojono," Jimmy whispered, remembering old mother had taught him the word buffalo. Shoshone followed the herds and lived well because of them. This meant his Indian family was closer than he realized. He wanted to hurry. With each mile, more and more Bojono dotted the landscape. Some would lift their huge furry heads to watch the two strangers on horseback. The boys rode for another hour. Finally, splashing through a shallow stream, they reached the crest of a hill. In the valley below was a sight that made Jimmy's heart swell with emotion. Dozens of cone-shaped teepees were clustered near the river. Its sandy beach was noisy with children playing. Women worked over stretched-out hides, and there was smoke from cooking fires. Men gathered in circles, possibly hunters and elders. A drum beat came on the wind. On the other side of the river, a herd of spotted ponies moved among the grass. Jimmy tried to take everything in. There was something so beautiful, something so deeply familiar. He knew this was a Shoshone camp, but for a moment he felt sick. What if he was too late to see old mother alive? Would Nahani be here? What about Nampa and Gamu, Poog and the others? Would they be angry he'd been away so long? At the sight of so many Indians, pen began to shake. He touched Jimmy's sleeve. "We're outnumbered, Jim. Maybe I should turn back. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, me coming with you. Maybe they'll want to scalp a white boy like me." Jimmy smiled at his friend. Without explaining, he picked up the reins and clicked his tongue. His horse headed downhill, and in a dignified trot carried Jimmy toward the village. And that is the end of chapter 24.